with attendance. So this is who I have so far. If I missed you, let me know. So I have Delilah's here.
Konnichiwa.
Konnichiwa, Delilah. I have Finn's here, Alice, Austin H, Nate Kitchell, Sophia, Addie, Nate R, Tyler, Maddie R, Taylor, Lucas, Iva, May. Am I missing anybody?
You didn't say my name.
For Lauren. Thank you, Lauren. Am I missing anybody else? Okay, awesome. So I'm glad that you guys had a great day yesterday. Today we got a lot to do. It's pretty exciting stuff. So we're going to start first with taking your attendance quiz. Hopefully you did that. When you're finished, we're going to do a mindful minute. So what do we do, not do in a mindful minute, and what's the purpose of it?
Well, one, we can't be on electronics, but we're on electronics right now.
Sure. So maybe taking distractions away from you, like cell phones. What else is the purpose
Spotify, for one.
Yeah. What's the purpose of the mindful minute? Why are we doing it?
Goals.
Yeah, set a goal for the day. It can be personal. It can be academic. I saw Robert just got on. Hey, Robert. So let's take a mindful minute, and then we will get started with today's module. Sound good? I'm going to share my screen. Here we go. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed that. We're going to go now to...
Mine's freezing.
Your screen, you mean?
Freezing. It keeps freezing.
Oh, no, I'm so sorry to hear that. If you need to, you can always come out of the Meet and then come back too. That's always an option. I would also recommend that you are all using the Canvas version, or I'm sorry, the Safari version of Canvas instead of the app. I find that works better for students, and you're able to split your screen. So today we're going to look at...
You're glitching out.
Am I glitching for anybody else?
For me.
A little bit, yeah. I'm going to leave and come back.
Yeah, you're glitching for me too.
Okay, I'm going to leave and then come back. How about now? Is this better?
It's better. I think the video just messed it up.
Yeah, okay. So we're going to look today at, hopefully you can see my screen. Can you guys see it now?
Yeah.
Awesome. So today we're going to look at A Christmas Carol, and I know we talked yesterday a little bit, but I briefly want to show you this presentation that I threw together for you, just to go over some basics. So this is just an introduction. This is a character of Scrooge. He will say humbug a lot, or sometimes you might hear him say bah humbug, and we'll kind of look at what that means when we watch the play today. So this is our author, Charles Dickens, because originally this story was a novella, which is a small like novel or short novel. So he wrote it. This is really cool because it's like an actual picture of him, right? You can't hear anything. Oh no. Can everybody else hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Okay, maybe I think
I
that
can
was
hear you perfectly.
okay.
For
And
me, you're just really glitchy.
I'm so sorry. Just
Leave
kind
and
of
come back.
yeah, so what I would say, guys, is
That's what you should do.
what's up?
Because you were glitchy for me, and then when I came back, you weren't glitchy anymore.
Yeah, I would say if you're having issues with hearing me or the glitching happening, you can always leave and come back, and that typically helps. So I hope that that's helpful. Going back to Charles Dickens, so this is an actual picture of him, which I think is really cool. It's not just like a drawing, but he was born on February 7th, 1812, and he spent the first 9 years of his life in Kent, which is the southeast part of England. So our story today is going to take place in London, England. So that's where the Christmas Carol takes place. So he's writing somewhat from experience. His father, John, was a kind and likable guy, but financially irresponsible. So he had a lot of debt. What does it mean when you're in debt? What does that mean?
You have to pay money to someone.
You
An
owe
amount.
money.
Yeah, great job, guys. Great job, Kitchell. Give yourselves a snap, a crackle, and a pop. So when you're in debt, you owe money, either to a bank or to a person. So his dad had so many debts that when when Charles was 12, his dad was arrested and sent to debtor's prison. So there was a prison.
Yeesh.
Yeah. So that was pretty crazy. His mom, this gets even kind of weirder. His mom moved, they have 7 children. And he was the 8th child, I believe, 8th or 9th. They had a lot of kids, but 7 of the children
God.
into the prison with their father. It's pretty wild, huh? To have those kids living in a debtor's prison. But when Charles,
Why?
yeah, why? Probably because if they're in debt, they probably don't have a lot. And during this time period, we'll talk more about this in a minute, but there was no middle class. What's it mean to be middle class?
You have a certain amount of money.
You're not rich or poor.
Yeah, what Nate said.
Yeah, so you're not rich, you're not poor, but there was no like middle class. Yeah, average. Exactly. Great job. Snaps, crackles, and pops to you guys. Awesome job. So they probably went to the prison, honestly, because at least they have a roof over their head and food and
Their father.
exactly. So Charles, though, he was 12 and he lived by himself outside of this prison, and he worked with other child laborers they call it a hellish job, pasting labels on bottles in a blacking warehouse. So what is child labor? Have we heard of that before? What is
You're
that?
making children do work for long periods of time.
Great job, Delilah. Anyone want to add to that? Have we heard of child labor laws?
You're not supposed to do that. They don't like support that anymore, but they used to do that.
Exactly. So now let's pretend you're 14 or 15 and you want to work your first job. You have to have like a parent sign off on that. You can only work so many hours during the day. There's laws to protect children, right? But back then there were not. So this is actually the picture of the original Christmas Carol story. So I think that's really cool to see. So Charles then, when he was 12, spent 3 months away from his family while they were all in the debtor's prison. Did someone want to add to that? I think someone.
No, I accidentally hit it. My bad.
Okay, cool.
Oh yeah, I had something to add to like the child labor thing.
Sure.
When child labor kind of happens, like they're doing it for a really long time, and they're also working their butts off, and they might end up dying from like hunger.
Exactly.
Yeah, and like when you get a job like 15 or like 14, like you can only do like part time because you have school too.
Yep, and you have to take breaks, and your
Yeah.
work is regulated to protect you. Like there's laws that make sure that your working environment is safe, and that wasn't the case then.
And not dangerous.
Exactly, and we'll learn more about that Friday when we start our research project. Well, it's like a research assignment, but it's going to be really cool, and you guys get to dive more into this. So after his dad was released from prison, Dickens returned to school. Before that, he thought he was kind of too good for the job he was working, and that kind of rubbed people the wrong way. So when he went back to school, he became a law clerk. He served as a court reporter, and then he, at 25, wrote his first novel. So that's kind of his very short life story. And then again, we'll research more on Friday, but I wanted to give you a super brief historical context before we watch the play. So this play is meant to reflect the social and economic conditions that take place in London in the 1840s. So economics are like people's jobs and livelihoods, right? So back then, the city was split in two. There was no middle class. There was either the upper class that flourished and prospered. They had everything they wanted and more. Or you were a lower class. You were in extreme poverty. You had shameful living and working conditions, and you struggled. Now, in the 19th century in England, it was not a welfare state. If you are on welfare, what does that mean? Or what is welfare like as a program, as a social program? Anybody know or want to guess? No one's heard that term?
I feel like I have, but I haven't.
Okay. Anybody else? Thanks, Delilah. No one's heard of it? So welfare is when you have assistance from government programs that help you pay for housing and food and just the basic necessities that you need to take care of yourself. But then they didn't have that. So there was no safety net. So if you were poor, sick, or even disabled, you were on your own, and it was pretty miserable. It was the worst for poor kids because there was no school. So you might be thinking like, woohoo, no school. But school equals power, because with knowledge comes power, comes privilege, right? And the more you know, the better job you can have, the better you can provide for yourself. So that was really sad to see then. They also didn't have food and medical care. And like I was saying earlier, there was no labor laws. So the best possible scenario would be like you worked very hard physical labor, like mining. And when we do our research on Friday, you'll see more of like children as young as 7 or 8 working in coal mines because they're so small that they can get into those tight areas. So it's kind of funny. People complain now about doing homework, but you could be like in a coal mine, right? For like 14 hours a day at 8. So just different time period, but pretty crazy. Here's some of the characters that we're going to listen to or watch today. So we have Ebenezer Scrooge. He is miserly. Do you guys know what miserly means?
Nope.
If you're a miser, you are cranky and old, and you just have a very negative opinion about things. Let's see. Yes, you're very miserable. Exactly. So that's Scrooge. He worked at a counting house. So basically his occupation was he was an accountant. And the premise of this, or the plot, are 3 spirits of Christmas are going to visit him. And they're going to try to make him not be so greedy and cold-hearted. We'll also see Jacob Marley in this first day of watching. So Jacob Marley is Scrooge's greedy partner. He dies 7 years before the story takes place, and he is going to be the ghost, the first ghost that we see. So because of how he acted before he passed away, he's like in chains, and he is not like in heaven or anywhere else, right? Or hell, really. He's just set to suffer and like wander the earth in these heavy chains. So he's coming in the beginning of the movie to warn Scrooge and tell him like, you need to change your ways so you don't end up like me. We have, yeah, great job. It can also be negative for sure. We have then the Cratchits. So we'll see Bob Cratchit. That's Scrooge's clerk or his employee. He's very kind. He has a really big family. He's very dedicated to his job. He has a son named Tiny Tim, who's very famous. he is crippled. What does it mean if you're crippled?
Depressed.
Not quite.
Oh,
You like
it
walk
means you're
funny
like
kind of.
brutally injured to the point where you can't walk.
Yes, exactly. If you're crippled, you can't walk. So he can walk. He has like a limp. Exactly. He's handicapped. Yes. So one of his legs is like not really usable. It's like a lame leg. So you'll see him with like a crutch or trying to walk and kind of dragging it. But he's a very sentimental character. Like people really love Tiny Tim. He's very positive though, despite his handicap. Then we have Peter and Martha. Those are some others. Yes. Sentimental is like you're treated well, or people often reflect back to the story and they're like, oh, Tiny Tim. Like you love to love that character. Then we have Peter and Martha. Those are Bob's children. And then he has a wife named Mrs. Cratchit. We'll also see today in the movie Fred. That's Scrooge's nephew, and he's going to invite Scrooge to a Christmas party, and Fred's like, come on, join it. And Scrooge says no. They have very different opinions on like Christmas and what's important. Then you're going to see later on these characters, Fezzik, Belle, Fan, and the Portly Gentleman. So that's just a really basic overview. This is what you're doing today. So if you go to today's module, there is a PDF. If you click here, a Christmas Carol movie viewing guide, you'll see this guide. It does seem long, but here's the nice part. You do not have to answer in complete sentences or use PQA. So
Yay!
yes. So these questions do go in order. When I created this, I put them in order when I was viewing the movie. So you'll get quite a bit done today. So this is what you should be doing as you're watching the film. Are there any questions for me?
Are we finishing the film today?
No, we won't have time, sweetie. So we're going to start the film today. Wednesday, you're going to have a different assignment for e-learning, and then we'll finish the film Thursday.
Okay.
Yay! We're finishing it on my birthday.
Nice.
That's like happiness for me.
Anything else, guys, before we start? So you should be filling out this PDF as you're watching the movie. Sound good? I'm going to have my mic on. That way you can hear the movie, but I'll have my camera off. Yes, this is real people. It's the 1984 version, but don't worry, it's in color. So, questions for me?
No one wants to see black and white stuff.
Right? Let's see if I can stop the recording now.
In the 60s.
Let's see. Thank you guys so much for letting me record. Perfect.
No problem.